All right, what is up? Welcome in. Oh boy. The story of the offseason hits on Monday afternoon as the rumors were true, they were legit. NiJaree Canady, Stanford pitcher, will indeed, or has, I should say, entered into the transfer portal. There's been a lot of big transfer portal entries over the past few years, of course. You think of Jordy Ball last year and how big of a deal that was. You just think of some others in the SEC, of course, in the Pac-12 as well. I don't know, and I just kind of want to start here. I do think that this is going to be something that we could talk about for quite some time. And as we move forward, this won't be the last time a very notable player enters into the transfer portal, but I don't know if we've seen a portal story this big or a player of this magnitude and how this story is going to develop quite like we have with NiJaree Canady. Now, I'm not here to argue when I say that who's better between Canady and Jordy Ball. But I think the difference here in what we're dealing with right now compared to last year is that Jordy Ball, once she hit the transfer portal, it was pretty obvious she wanted to go home. She wanted to go to Nebraska, and that's what she did. So there wasn't a whole lot of time for us to just sit around and guess, well, where's she going to go? Is she going to go to the West Coast? She going to go to the Southeast? She let us know pretty quick that she was going back home to Nebraska. Guys, there's already a handful of teams who are thought to be maybe, teams that can get involved with NiJaree Canady. This could be a bit of a long process here as her and her family try to decide what's next. But this is a move that can really alter the sport next year. It is that big of a deal. And NiJaree Canady has been one of, if not the best pitchers in all of college softball the past couple of years, and that's not going to change. And whoever gets NiJaree Canady in the transfer portal is going to get an unbelievable pitcher and a lot more people. Whoever gets NiJaree Canady, there's going to be a lot of people think that that team next year can go win the national championship. So many ways to go about this. And please, if you're in, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Drop your thoughts in the comments as well. I know not everyone is happy about this. I did have to laugh a little bit that the rumors for this, at least on social media, really started on about Saturday afternoon. Hey, rumors out there that NiJaree Canady might be in the portal. And then a TV station in Wichita, I think, was the first to report that indeed was going to happen. But as this thing was being reported or even rumored that she was going to hop in the transfer portal, there were fans of other teams already mad at OU for this. Like, OU's tampering, OU this. Like, the common thought, I guess, immediately by a lot of people is, oh my gosh, she's just going to go to Oklahoma and she's going to lead them to a fifth consecutive national championship. I'm not that far along yet. I think we need to pump the brakes on just that because I think there's a lot to sort out here. But OU was getting some blame in this deal when she hadn't even announced top schools or hadn't even officially announced that she was entering in the transfer portal. So I found that part at least a little bit funny there. But apparently this talk goes all the way back to the Women's College World Series itself and talking to people that were there, talking to people that she was that were covering the event. Apparently that was the talk with everyone in the media there, is saying that this is going to happen. It's rumored to happen, and we'll see what happens. But this isn't just something that popped up this weekend. Apparently, NiJaree Canady has really considered transferring at least for the past couple of weeks, if not longer than that. And if a lot of people knew in Oklahoma City that this was a real possibility, we may have to go back several weeks to the first time that NiJaree Canady said, I think I want to leave Stanford and play my final 2 seasons at another school. Might that be Oklahoma? I think that's a very real possibility. I can't sit here in front of you guys tonight and say that is a 0% possibility. I mean, there's a lot of things that make sense when it comes to OU. Topeka, Kansas, we know that's where NiJaree's from. Getting back closer to home sounds like it is kind of a driving factor for maybe this decision. And yes, Columbia, Missouri is a little bit closer than Topeka, Kansas, but Norman, Oklahoma is pretty close to Topeka, like 4.5 hours. It's the best program in college softball. OU, I believe, is absolutely going to have a shot in this thing. And just some teams that I've kind of heard being thrown out as kind of who to watch out for in the pursuit of NiJaree Canady. OU, of course, Florida, Tennessee, and then I've still heard some chatter about Texas. So I don't know what you guys have heard, what you guys have seen on maybe some paid sites out there. But if I had to handicap this thing early, and we are really, really early in this, still without a whole lot of solid information really on the driving force behind this. But OU, Florida, Tennessee, and Texas are kind of the four teams that that look like that they could be in the running for NiJaree Canady. And any of those four teams, OU is going to have a really good team next year. They'll be young, but they'll have a really good team. Florida will have a good team next year. Tennessee, Texas, same thing. And it feels like whoever gets Canady, if it is one of those four, probably going to be thought of as the favorite going into next year to win a national championship. But I don't think that this is going to be a quick decision. I don't think that this is going to be one where, she officially enters in the portal today, and then by the middle of this week or even the end of this week, we get a decision. Maybe that happens. Maybe she's known for a while that she wanted to enter in the portal, and she's already got a pretty good idea of the schools that she wants to attend. But I'm going to guess that she probably takes some visits here and sits around with her family and really goes through the process here. Because, I've seen a lot of people complain and say, you know what, this is what's wrong with collegiate sports. NiJaree Canady's in it for all the money and all the NIL. I don't know if NiJaree Canady is making this decision based solely on NIL. But regardless of what the decision is, NIL will be a heavy part of this decision. I mean, of course it is. NiJaree Canady may be going into this with the legit thought of, I just want to get closer to home, and maybe I want to be surrounded with a team that's a little bit better offensively than I've had at Stanford, and maybe have a better chance to win a national championship. That could very well be the case with NiJaree Canady. I don't think we know 100% that that's not the case. But here's the thing. Once you hop in the transfer portal, whether NIL is your focal point or not, she's going to get some pretty crazy offers. She's going to get some big offers, maybe some of the biggest, if not the biggest offers that we've seen a softball player get in the transfer portal, just because she's that highly coveted. And I'm going to guess that NIL is a factor in this decision, and her family can probably make a good amount of money throughout this decision. But whether it's OU, it's Florida, it's Texas, or whoever else really wants to pursue NiJaree Canady, she's going to get some pretty incredible offers here. And again, I think that she's probably going to go through the process. I don't know how many visits she takes or exactly how long this is. I wouldn't expect it to take 2 months or a month and a half or anything like that, but her family is going to be presented with some opportunities for sure. Chief says, Tyler, do you think she will commit to OU without visiting? Any reports of her visiting? There was a rumor that she was there this past weekend. I don't think that was the case. I think I heard of a couple of other recruits or a couple of other transfer portal players that were in Norman this weekend, but I didn't hear anything about. I didn't hear anything about NiJaree Canady. I would guess that NiJaree Canady visits OU. Seeing that she's from Topeka, I would imagine that if she does end up an Oklahoma Sooner this next season, that she would probably visit first. Brian's already calling 8 consecutive national championships. Yeah, maybe. Mark says, bring on the hate. Yeah, there's hate right now. I saw a Florida State guy. They've been tampering the whole season. This is what's going to happen. It's a done deal. OU's been tampering. Like, what evidence do you have that OU's been tampering with NiJaree Canady? My God, guys, it's not OU's fault that NiJaree Canady is in the transfer portal. And I know a lot of people are down about this current age of college athletics and all that, and I get that. But this is what it is. You can thank the NCAA for that. You can thank a lot of different things for where we're at right now. But, God, it doesn't have to be OU's fault that this decision had to happen today. Man, Mike White started the rumor. Well, he sees this as his way to finally beat OU. Texas will be the odds-on favorite without Canady. They could be, Mark. They could be. They got a lot coming back next year. Let the bid start. Yeah, it's going to be. She's going to get a lot of NIL offers. I believe that. She probably doesn't want to play the ACC based out of Palo Alto, California, and same amount of travel all year long. Yeah, Payson, I had that kind of written down here in my notes. It's really something to think about. I mean, it really is, because if you're traveling around on a softball team, I don't think that you're necessarily flying private everywhere. You're probably taking a lot of commercial flights, and seeing as how far they have to travel, I mean, you're going to have to go play at Clemson. You're gonna have to go play at Duke, and they won't play everyone on the road in the ACC, but pretty much all of their road series next year are going to be like what 3 time zones away. I mean, that's a serious deal for travel. So I'm sure if I had to guess here, and again, we don't know all the answers here, but if I had to guess that NiJaree Canady probably wants to be in a little bit better of a situation, maybe have a bit better chance to win a championship, though she has kind of carried Stanford to the Women's College World Series the past couple of years. I'm sure NIL is a factor, and if it's not, it's going to be here because again, for the third time, the offers that she's going to get, and yeah, maybe that ACC travel as well. Maybe she wants to be closer to home, and if she wants to be closer to home, Norman, Oklahoma will be a really good spot for sure. Sid Sanders, Cassidy Pickering, Ella Parker, Hannah Core, big bats, 100%. Well, I just and Stanford's been a good team the past couple of years, be it because of NiJaree Canady, but it's the offense is the big reason why Stanford hasn't been able to make a deeper run than they have. And they've had a couple of really nice showings at the Women's College World Series. But you pair up a really good offense with NiJaree Canady in the circle, then that team's going to be really, really tough. Appreciate that, Brian. Thank you for tuning in on this Monday night. And I think that this is the biggest portal addition, or biggest portal entry, I should say, that we've seen for softball in the transfer portal era. And if you're just now joining here, I said that a few minutes ago, but look, Jordy Ball was a big deal, but we really didn't go through the re-recruiting process with Jordy Ball. And there's been some very notable players in the transfer portal as well. I just don't know because this is going to be tracked daily. Guys, I'm going to try to upload content daily on what's going on with NiJaree Canady. Right now, it's the biggest story in college softball, and I really don't know if it's all that close. And the transfer portal officially closes today, and there's going to be a lot of movement with OU and a lot of movement with other teams across the sport. But this is topic number one. I led with this story on the radio show this afternoon. That's how big of a deal that it is, and as big of a deal as it's going to be. We're going to be tracking the visits when they happen. We'll be tracking what OU thinks about it, or behind the scenes, what are people saying on who the favorites are. I got an interview coming tomorrow morning that I'm going to post tomorrow afternoon about this thing. It is a massive, massive story, and I think that it is really going to shape what next year in the sport looks like. What do you think might push OU over the top? Well, that's a good question, because I have what's OU's pitch? Okay, what is OU's pitch for NiJaree Canady? That's a good question. Well, proximity to home, if that's a real factor. Hey, Topeka, Kansas, it's 4.5 hours away. Your parents can get to a lot of these games. Our NIL offer is probably going to be very competitive with the likes of Florida, Tennessee, Texas, and whoever else gets into this. And look, I think now for a player like NiJaree Canady could be a pretty good time to transfer to OU. Now let me say this as I'm answering this. I bet that there's some pressure for NiJaree Canady. I don't know if it's going to matter, and I don't even know if it's going to be within her family. But I bet that there's probably some pressure from the college softball world that don't just go to Oklahoma. Yeah, Oklahoma might win a 5th consecutive national championship, but go somewhere else and try to win a championship. Go to Tennessee or go to Florida. I'm sure there's going to be some outside pressure for NiJaree Canady not to go to Oklahoma. But here's the deal. NiJaree Canady and OU is going to have some really good players next year, and some really good players that not all the fan base even knows because they're incoming freshmen. But NiJaree Canady would be the biggest star on next year's OU softball team. And NiJaree Canady wouldn't be joining a team that has Jada Coleman, and Tiare Jennings, and Kinsey Hansen, and Kelly Maxwell. Like, you get the point here. This is in some sort of a ways not a rebuilding year, but of a little bit of a reload year. NiJaree Canady is your ace in the circle, and she's kind of the face of the team next year. So I think it's proximity to home. I think it's probably playing in the SEC, right? Like, hey, you're closer to home now, and we don't have to travel 3 time zones away to go play softball games. Your parents can come to a lot of games. Your parents can maybe get to a decent amount of road games in the SEC as well. So that aspect, the NIL aspect, and she could be a heavy, heavy player on a team next year that can absolutely win another national championship. She could be the ace in the circle. So development, I mean, who has developed better in the circle than OU has recently? I mean, look what OU was able to do late in the season with Kelly Maxwell and the pitcher that she turned out to be. Look what happened with the progression of Kirsten Deal. Look what's happened with Nicole May throughout her career. Jordy Ball, what they did. G. Juarez, Hope Troutline. I mean, there's just so many examples that, look, you come to Oklahoma, if you want to really realize your potential as a pitcher, come play for Jen Rocha. Come play for Patty Gasso, because the resume's there is that you can surround yourself with one of, if not the best offenses next year, and you're going to have a great chance to go win a national championship. And you're not going to have to do it all on your own, like maybe you did at Stanford. I'm sorry, but Cassidy Pickering is the biggest star on this team. That may very well be the case. I love me some Cassidy Pickering, and she's going to be a huge. She's going to be an All-American someday. I called that. Maybe she is. I just think NiJaree Canady is a kind of a household name in the sport right now. What do you think her NIL value is? I have no idea what her NIL value is. And you know what? I mean, I guess I would bet some schools have a guess. Like, hey, here's like initially what we would offer NiJaree Canady come play for us next year. But here's the thing about the bidding process. I mean, everyone's going to want her. Everyone knows how good of a player she is. So if a certain dollar amount starts at, and here's just a guess, I don't know. If it were to start at, I don't know, $80,000, how more and more and more does that bidding continue as we move forward here? Because people really, really want her. Really, really want her. Loves Field, says Mark. Yeah, that's a great pitch as well. Come play in the best facility, in front of the best fans. Like, I think it's pretty clear. OU has the most to sell because OU is the best thing going on in the sport. Like, if the NIL offer is there for NiJaree Canady, and I would guess that it probably will be, OU's got the most to offer. Proximity to home, championship, development. It looks like it's a lot of fun to be a part of this program and what Patty Gasso preaches and she's all about. So OU's going to have the best pitch. Does she want to go join OU? Or does she want to go win a championship elsewhere? We got a long way to go, I think, to we sort this out. Brand new ballpark, excellent coaching. Yes, on all these, by the way. Patty Gasso and Jen Rocha, absolutely. John Leach says Patty should lead with the obvious. Come to OU and get a natty ring. We're a proven commodity. Yeah, or maybe Patty goes with I think it's Barry Switzer that did it, right? I'm sure Bob Stoops did it as well. Hey, come to OU. We'll win a championship with or without you. But if you want to come win a national championship, come to Oklahoma. Like, no one else can have that. And that's what, that adds to OU's got the best pitch in this thing. Because no one else can say that, John. Only OU can say that. Like, do you want to win a national championship? You want to do that? Then come to OU. I mean, we've won 4 consecutive championships, and we've won 8 since the year 2000. We're the best thing going on. You can lead with that, and nobody else can. You can lead with that, and nobody else can. Does anyone know what she's going to school for? I heard she's looking at medical school. I need to dig into that a little bit more. But there's been is a Stanford degree not enough? Is a Stanford degree not enough? I'm sure the Stanford degree is just fine. I just think that she wants to maybe improve her situation around her. And that's what Danielle Laurie, I don't know how many of you fan Danielle Laurie, pitched at Washington. She does some ESPN stuff during the Women's College World Series, covers softball, and I kind of listened to her 90-second take on it, and she kind of had the thought that she wanted to be surrounded with a better offense, and I think that that's probably going to happen for NiJaree, regardless of where she goes in terms of the schools that I listed. But she sees an opportunity to probably make some more NIL money, and it is very important to note this, that there is not a do not contact designation on NiJaree Canady. And there are times where players enter the portal, and that's the case. Anyone can contact her. Anyone and everyone can contact her. So what kind of offers is she going to get? Is someone have a donor that's just going to throw a stupid amount of money at her and say, hey, I know we're not Oklahoma. I know we're not the best thing going, but here's a crazy amount of money. Come play softball for us for a couple of years. I mean, maybe so. It's that big. It's that big of a deal, guys. I just wouldn't be surprised. I declare today May Day in honor of Nicole May. I'd be down to come up with a day to honor Nicole May. Boomer Sooner says, Sean, good to hear from you. $250,000+, probably $1 million. It's not just what the collective can give, it's the opportunities for other NIL deals that almost no other teams and cities have. So many softball players have good incomes here. Yeah, it's a great point. I remember, because I'm still old enough to know that there was a time in the day where you don't get a free car from a dealership. That was viewed as one of the worst things that you could do for improper benefits. Right? I got SMU in a whole lot of trouble at one time, right? Is the cars from the dealerships and all that. That's legal now. And I think Jocelyn Allo was one of the first athletes, certainly at OU, but one of the first athletes in college sports to kind of get that NIL deal with a car dealership. So is NiJaree Canady going to be rolling around town in an $80,000 car? I don't know. I mean, maybe. I'm not going to doubt anything at this point. But it is a good point, is that it's not just what the collective can give you. This area, and honestly, maybe more than any other area in the country, is on fire for OU softball like nobody else is. So yeah, there's businesses, and you see it with commercials, you see it with radio, TV ads, like endorsing products, whatever. 100%. Like, I think Whataburger has a commercial out right now with a few OU softball players, right? You can get paid by the collective, but there's also opportunities in this city, in this area, that you're not going to get at other places. You're just not. So everyone's just crazy about softball around here. And I think that could be an additional benefit as well. Like, this is the softball capital of the world. I know OKC is the softball capital of the world, but that doesn't kind of end at the edge of the city limits of OKC. That continues on in Norman. There's as much passion as you're going to find. And I don't claim to know what other schools have in their NIL budget for softball. I don't know. I don't know what Tennessee has in their NIL budget for softball. I don't know what Florida has. I don't know what Texas has. But I do know this, and this could be a big factor, is that in terms of like the hierarchy of sports at OU, I think there's a lot of OU fans that would say, well, football's my favorite at OU, but softball's number 2. It's right there. Some would say, hey, softball's my favorite, and then whatever order after that. Like, there is a passion for softball that exists here that not every place has. Like, softball doesn't fall into the same category as like a Florida or Tennessee. I wouldn't guess. Like, baseball's big at Tennessee. Basketball's big at Tennessee. Football's big at Tennessee. You kind of see the point there, is that softball is a very easy number 2 at OU in terms of importance. And I think a lot of people would say that softball is their favorite sport at OU. And that's not really the case at a whole lot of schools. Softball is as popular now as it's ever been, but OU's fan base it's one of one in terms of how many people care about it and how much they put into this. So I just think I think OU is going to have a shot here, guys. I really do. There's a lot to sort out here, and I think a long way to go. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. I'm trying not to get my hopes up for it because it'd be amazing. But we got a long way to go, but I'm thinking OU is going to have a very, very strong pitch. I'm worried some Texas folks are willing to spend whatever they need to beat us honestly. Losing twice in the Women's College World Series Championship Series is brutal. It's true. Mike White wants to win. Texas wants to win. And I think people are seeing, too, that it's very profitable to win at a high level in softball. I mean, look what's happened to Oklahoma. Look at the fact that what the Loves family was willing and what they did in terms of a new stadium. I think Texas really is wanting to kind of update their stadium. I don't know if they want to build a new one, but I think people are seeing like, oh, wow, like, you win at a high level in softball. That's very, very, very profitable. So there's a real move to pour more and more resources into it. It's a lot easier if you have a team that's winning championships. And if you have NiJaree Canady on your team next year, you got a lot better chance to win a championship than you did previously. Robert says, do you have Patty? You have Jen Rocha. You have state-of-the-art stadium. Oklahoma has the best NIL in softball. Also the best sports enhancement department and the best recovery department. No sharing. They've got a lot of things that not a whole lot of people in college softball have. And hey, and now you're going to the SEC. It's looked at as a challenge for Patty to lead this team in. It's looked at as a challenge for the program to go in the SEC. If NiJaree Canady wants to pitch against the best, then she can choose Oklahoma or roll into the SEC. I guess she could choose Florida, Tennessee, or someone like that, and that's already in the SEC for sure. But yeah, there's just I don't really see. There's so many positives that we can point out, and you guys have been helping me kind of list the positives that OU has. Again, I think it's pretty clear no one quite has the pitch that OU has to NiJaree Canady. Other schools have some really good ones, and maybe the dollar amount is what's going to matter at the end of the day. But OU, outside of what they can offer NIL wise, no one has that pitch. What are the negatives when it comes to OU? It's hard to find a negative. The only negative that I can find in terms of why NiJaree Canady wouldn't want to come to OU is just the outside pressure that she would get. Like, don't go to Oklahoma, go somewhere else and try to win a championship. And I don't know her personally, and maybe she didn't care about that at all. But I'm sure there's going to try to be a lot of people that try to steer her away from going to OU. Can we start a GoFundMe? Maybe have Love's court match funds. Seriously, they built the stadium. Might be in on this one too. Spencer Rattler got 2 cars, and he wasn't that good. Yeah, Rattler did get 2 cars. I remember that. Softball is number 1. Unfortunately, softball isn't necessarily a big revenue maker. NIL will be easy to match no matter what. Well, it's okay. It's not a big revenue maker, but at most schools, you have to. I mean, they don't make money, and I think as of 4 or 5 years ago, OU was actually in the black in terms of making money as a program. I haven't checked in on that in the past couple of years. I would guess that that's still the case, but yeah, it's not a big revenue maker. Football's pretty much everyone's big revenue maker. I guess it like the Blue Bloods for basketball, that's their big revenue maker as well. I mean, they make a lot of money with that, but football drives the bus for sure. But I think it's about OU like actually operating in the black and making some money when it comes to softball instead of, you're having to spend a lot of money to keep this program around every single year. So the real negative is that it may not be a rebuilding year, but we are going to be very, very young. Very young, but still very talented. Young, but very, very talented. It would be amazing if, and I hope that NiJaree Canady comes to OU. On record to saying that, I hope she comes to OU. But if NiJaree Canady didn't come to OU and she goes to Texas, and Texas still couldn't beat you in a national championship series, how awesome would that be? I want NiJaree Canady to come to Oklahoma. I do. But if she were to go somewhere else, especially Texas, and you still beat that dork Mike White in a championship series, that would be pretty fantastic, and you win your 5th consecutive. That'd be sweet. Paulette, maybe her parents are going to be a big influence because they've already seen what Oklahoma has to offer. Yeah, they've seen it up close and personal. I mean, NiJaree's seen it in Oklahoma City. Her parents have seen it in Oklahoma City. So I'm sure the parents will be involved in this one. It's going to be NiJaree's decision, I'm sure, I hope, because not every kid gets to make their own decision when it comes to this, which is really sad. They have other people influencing them when it comes to money, but NiJaree seems like a really good person. So we'll see what she decides. Stanford is the University of Iowa of softball. Oh my gosh, that's a great comparison. That is a great comparison. Iowa cannot score in football. Stanford has a lot of difficulty scoring in softball. What, Texas beat Stanford 1-0? Like Stanford's season came to an end in a 1-0 game, and the only run that Texas scored was when Texas got in a rundown and ended up scoring on that play. Like she's that good. She can shut down a good offense. She just didn't have much of an offense behind her. Pressure is a gift. That means it is personal, how you react to competition. Pressure is a gift. And, NiJaree Canady's dealt with pressure before, but the level of pressure that goes on with the OU softball, it's not made for everyone. It ain't for everyone to come in and deal with that pressure immediately. Kelly Maxwell could she found that out and she ended up dealing with the pressure just fine. But yeah, it's not for everyone. I think she'll end up at Texas or Florida. Yeah, I think those two could be, or throw in Tennessee as well. As I'd be surprised if it was, someone that's a bit under the radar as a program. And I just feel like it's going to be a big time program that's got a good amount of NIL money. That's just kind of my guess here. But we still don't know all the details of this. But I would guess it's one of the 4 that we're talking about here. If White loses 3 in a row, he has to be out, right? Oh, you think they'd fire Mike White if he? No, 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 no. If he loses 3 in a row, he has to be. No, if you mean being fired by Texas, no, absolutely not. Mike White, I think he's lame. I think he says some really stupid things, but he's really elevated the Texas program. I don't like him, and you probably don't like him either. But no, no, he'll be the head coach at Texas long term. I would bet. Mike White can't live on that piddly 550,000 he's gaming for a raise. Yep. She might be coming to the Champion Barbecue, says Robert. There you go. OU's got a lot of football commits in this weekend, but get her to the Champion Barbecue, and that might be the biggest visitor out of anyone. In a former life, Mike White was a fart, long came then went. You like that joke, don't you, Brian? You like that joke. 2025 could be another 2016. I don't know if you've seen me say that or not, but I've said that a few times now. And just go look at that 2016 team, how young they are. Shea Knighton was a freshman. I think Paige Parker was a sophomore. Sid Romero, was she? That was a really young team. I've pulled it up before and talked about it in past episodes. But yeah, when I make the argument that this team will be just fine and be a World Series contender, even though they're young, that's the team that I like to say, like, hey, just look at that 2016 team. They were really young after losing Shelby Pinley, Lauren Chamberlain, a lot of good players, and they came back next year, figured it out, and won. She has the opportunity to bring the 5th and 6th consecutive natty. I'd imagine it'd be hard to turn down. Oklahoma's going to be hard to turn down for NiJaree Canady. It's going to be really hard. A chance to play for the GOAT, a chance to play under Jen Rocha, a chance to play in front of these fan base, money-wise, championship-wise. It's going to be tough to turn down, and maybe she does, because Florida and Tennessee and some of these other programs are going to have some really strong pitches as well. But Oklahoma is going to be seriously, like, really, really hard to turn down. And didn't Patty admit that she missed on that one when she was coming out of Topeka? I think that she had mentioned that before. Patty's not going to mess around this time. Patty will not mess around this time for sure. Okay. What other notes did I have down there? I guess this was a big rumor that this is going to happen. Didn't catch a whole lot of people by surprise. That this ended up being the decision for NiJaree Canady. A lot of people throughout the week and a half tournament were talking about it. In terms of other names that OU is kind of currently pursuing in the transfer portal, Kaylee Wyckoff from Texas Tech, that could be an OU-Tennessee battle. She'd be a really good player to get. A couple of more names that I found here. Let me scroll down. I was told Riley Holtor from Washington, a shortstop, was maybe in this weekend. Abby Dayton, a Utah utility player who hit like 433 last year, apparently was in this past weekend. Riley Holtorf, I believe she was like Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. She's a really good defensive shortstop. So it's not just going to be NiJaree Canady. Like, OU is going to get some other really good players via the transfer portal. And I remember a comment on a live stream last week of, well, this portal cycle, it just doesn't have the headline names like years past. And my comment was, well, just wait. Like, things tend to happen late in the portal cycle. Names become available that we didn't think were going to become available. And here you go. NiJaree Canady is about as big of a name as we've seen in the portal. There's a rumor that a very notable Big 12 player could be entering the portal soon. And today is the deadline for entering in the transfer portal. But it doesn't have to be announced. And some of you who follow college football transfer portal know this already, but you're probably going to find out names tomorrow into Wednesday, maybe even Thursday. The player just has to notify the coaching staff by today that they intend to enter into the transfer portal. But as the paperwork goes through and everything goes through, there will be some names that won't officially show up in the portal until maybe tomorrow, middle of this week, maybe towards the end of this week. So I think that there could be other names that maybe we're not talking about right now that are indeed in the transfer portal. So, Cameron, I know you were asking about that. There's a few for you. Kaylee Wyckoff of Texas Tech, Riley Holtorf, Abby Dayton, Utah utility player, and we'll find out more names as the week goes on as well. Cameron says curveball, she goes to Kansas. That would be a curveball. That would surprise me. It'd be closer to home. Topeka is closer to home in Lawrence, Kansas. I don't know how much KU softball has in NIL. I don't know if that'd be a better offense than what she's had at Stanford, but she'd kind of be in a very, very similar situation. She would just be, a maybe making a little bit more money at KU. I think Canady comes to OU because why would S.J. Guerin go to the portal when on paper she would be a starter next year? Yeah, see, I don't know if I don't think S.J. was going to be a starter next year. And I know just based on what you lost, it would seem like, oh, well, you lost this many pitchers. She moves up this many spots in the rotation. Look, SJ seemed like a great teammate. And that was a really cool story when she got in the game early in the season in that when they were in Louisiana that weekend. But I don't think that SJ Guerin was really ever going to be one of your 1-2 starters on this team. And I think that that's why she entered in the transfer portal. I think that she knew that. Maybe her and Patty or her and Jen Rocha had that conversation like, hey, SJ, like you played your role perfectly this year. No, you didn't get to pitch a lot, but you're a great teammate. But if you want to pitch on more of a regular basis, you probably can't do that at Oklahoma. Can't do that at Oklahoma. Oh, you're talking about SJ. Are you talking about SJ Hodge and Q? Some of you are commenting back and forth on the chat there. So maybe that's what you meant. But yeah, Kennedy to Kansas would be very surprising. Sad to see Hodge leave. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about her. I think initially it was thought that she might go back to the state of Texas. Texas and Texas A&M were rumored, but I haven't followed that one that much. I'm learning a lot this postseason. Thanks to you and others for helping this lady's learning curve. Yeah, no, thank you for thanks for tuning in for sure. And it's about to get wacky. It's about to get crazy. Whole lot of rumors will be out there and movement. The portal is still open. The next few weeks are going to be insane. Going to be insane. And I get it. Not everyone likes it. And I'm not even sitting here saying that I love the direction that college sports is headed. I don't. There's a lot of things about college sports that I don't like. But at the same time, this is the game. NiJaree Canady and these other players, they didn't create the rules. They're just using the rules that have been created by the NCAA. I don't love it either. I don't necessarily love what's going on in college sports, but we can't be surprised if a player leaves to maybe make a little bit more in NIL money when it's completely legal, and a lot of other players are doing it as well. Does OU have a chance? Yes, Christopher. I believe OU has a chance. Have Kelly call Canady. Not a bad idea. Hey, I rolled in. A lot of people criticize my decision, as they probably would if you come to OU. But guess what? I ended up a champion. I was a part of this program that really cared about me. I got to meet Adrian Peterson. Did you have a favorite OU player growing up, NiJaree Canady? Because OU can make dreams happen. If you do, they'll probably get that player to come meet you face to face. Kelly Maxwell would probably be a good person to call for sure. Let's see. Last day to commit is first day of school. I think that's right. Yeah. You have to be enrolled by a certain point. So she's got a lot of time here. We're learning. Okay, let's see. Who would be the players that host her while she's here? That's a good question. Because, you just lose 10 seniors. Probably like golly, are you having your true freshman from this year hosting? Right? I mean, you guys said earlier that Cassidy Pickering could be the biggest star next year. Someone else said Ella Parker could be the biggest star next year. Sid Sanders, maybe, potentially. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a young team. Maybe Patty Gasso says, hey, you guys stay home this weekend. I got this one. But I know Kinsey Hansen's back on staff. Tiare is going to be back on staff as well. Carly Keeney is going to be on the staff as well. So you'll have some options there. I'm sure she'll have a great time if she does indeed take it to Norman. But this is big. This is big. It's really exciting. I'm going to be doing a whole lot of content on this and a whole lot of other off-season OU content as well. But I think OU's pitch is going to be very strong. The do not contact designation tells me that because there's a lot of transfer portal moves that happen with, okay, well, I entered in the portal, but I already know where I'm going. You see that a ton in football. The portal isn't even open yet. They're a grad transfer, whatever, and they already know where they're going. And tampering does happen. I don't know how much it happens in college softball, but tampering does happen in college football. A lot of these kids already know where they're going to go before they actually enter the transfer portal. The do not contact designation means that anyone can contact her, and I'm guessing just about everyone will. But the meltdown that would ensue nationally if OU gets her, I mean, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to enjoy every second of it Mike White might make a dumb offseason content. All these other fans of other schools will be up in arms. I mean, it would be awesome to get NiJaree Canady because she's really good, but just to see the meltdown from other fan bases. I love the hate. I don't understand the hate that this program gets. I don't understand. They're all great kids. Patty's the GOAT, an unbelievable human being. But come on, bring on the hate. Let's go. 4 consecutive championships. You just get the best player in the portal. I will live in that hate, and I will live in the meltdown that everyone has. And I don't want to hear the crap from other fan bases. Oh, you tampered. Oh, you tampered. Show me some proof that OU tampered if OU ends up getting a player like NiJaree Canady. Other than pitcher, what positions is OU looking to add in the portal? Shortstop. Again, Abby Dayton, a utility player. What you need a catcher, I think. A catcher probably as well. Probably it feels like they're gonna have about 5 spots to fill the transfer portal. That kind of feels like the number, but I would guess just based on what they brought in, shortstop, you could use another catcher for sure. So those are probably the main 2. They hate us because they hate us, and that's it. That's it. There's no other reason. Why else would you hate Patty Gasso? Why else would you hate the players on this team who just show up at the podium and talk about their faith and their unbelievable players? Like, yeah, you hate OU because you're not OU. The jealousy is real. All the hate fuels our championship fire. I love the hate. And I operate on a lot of hate when it comes to watching sports. There's a lot of teams that I dislike. And winning the national championship this year was awesome. And it would have been awesome if they would have beaten Stanford or whoever else. But beating Texas, just adding that little dose of hate to it, it's amazing. If we don't get Canady, aren't we going into the season with only 3 pitchers? Well, they'll go get a pitcher or 2 in the transfer portal. I think objective number 1 is to go get Canady in the portal, but they'll go add a pitcher in the transfer portal if it's not Canady. Chris says, I believe Kelly Maxwell is the perfect portal ambassador in recruiting her to the Sooners. What a success story Maxwell experienced this season. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. And I think that there's a lot of players that you can. I think Kinsey Hansen would be a great ambassador, to say, hey, NiJaree, like, you want to come to Oklahoma? Here's what it's all about. But Kelly Maxwell for sure, because there's a comparison there. And I actually think it's a really good comparison. NiJaree wouldn't be coming from a rival school, but NiJaree's going to get a lot of hate. Not everyone's going to love her decision if she comes to OU. Not a lot of people like Kelly Maxwell's decision to leave Oklahoma State and go to OU. And I think that that's a really good reference point of, hey, here's what I went through. Here's how I dealt with it. Here's how this staff helped me. Here's how these teammates helped me. I think that's a fantastic idea. And as much as Kelly enjoyed her time and loved this coaching staff, I think that she'd be more than willing to do that. Storako, Troutwine, Shannon Sell, G. Juarez. Perfect. Who's been more successful in the transfer portal at pitcher than OU has? Storako was your number 2 when you won a national championship. She was fantastic. She was like sub 1 ERA the entire season. Hope is dope. Hope Troutwine really carried you in the postseason to a championship. Shannon Sale was kind of your number 2 along the way. She had some big wins for you. And then G. Juarez literally put the team on her back as they rolled through a Women's College World Series a few years ago. Rumor has it she was on a plane to Toronto, says Pat. Nebraska. I don't think she's going to Nebraska. I hope she's not going to Nebraska. I hope she's going to Oklahoma. But here's the thing about NiJaree Canady. At least this is my opinion. You may not get NiJaree Canady, but you're going to see her one way or the other next year. If not Oklahoma, she's probably going to an SEC school. So you may not get her. I hope you do. I think you're going to have a good chance to do so. But you'll see NiJaree Canady one way or the other next year, whether she's on your team or you're facing her next year. That's a good one, Glenn. Paige Lowry, too. She was from Missouri. Yeah. OU's fared very well in the transfer portal, so that could be a really good pitch. Let's see. Nebraska doesn't have the bats to pick her up. I'd agree with that. I don't think she's coming to Norman. Why don't you think she's coming to Norman? She may not. It's not 100%. I don't even know if I'd put it at 50% right now, just because there's so much things to sort out. But other teams have really good pitches. I think OU's pitch is very, very strong. And if this happens, wow, there's going to be a lot of excitement. A lot of excitement. And look, OU's going to be good with or without NiJaree Canady. I think OU can win a national championship without NiJaree Canady. I've been saying that now for 2 weeks. I think that I think this team is very capable of, young team, but playing together throughout the season. You got some young stars that are really going to develop. 2016, there's like with or without NiJaree Canady, I think they can win a championship. Do they have a better chance with NiJaree Canady? Sure, absolutely. But OU's hopes of being some sort of a good softball team don't rest with this decision. And I don't want to present it that way. OU will be a better team if they get Canady. Of course they will. So will every other team. But OU is going to be a good team with or without her. And even if they don't get her, they'll go get another really good pitcher or two via the transfer portal. And yeah, do you think she wants to be the workhorse like at Stanford? Stanford, you think she'll want to be like the OU rotation? She may want to be in the rotation. And even Kelly Maxwell this year, we saw some big series where Kelly Maxwell pitched on Friday and then came back on Sunday. Like Kelly Maxwell did that, and I thought that she did that at a high level this year. And maybe that's what you'd be asking for Canady, but you're not asking her to throw a ridiculous amount of innings like a Rothrock had this year and how many innings she had to throw. Patty does not operate that way. Patty operates with a real type of rotation mentality. So it's fun, though. It's fun. Off-season softball content. The sport is so loved now that you even follow this thing throughout the offseason, which is cool. And these high-profile transfer portal situations, there's the reasons come out as to why players in the portal. Not always. No, like Jordy's did because Jordy made a statement. I don't know if she'll have a statement or not. Probably not. It'll probably be people will report about it, and I'm sure she'll do an interview about it, but not really. Not really. But there's a lot of these situations that come down to NIL money. Again, I think that this is a part of it. That's a part of this decision here. I don't think that that's the only thing. I think she wants to be surrounded by a better offense, and maybe she doesn't have to do it all on her own. And a better chance to win a championship, get back closer to home. But, all right, I got a fun interview coming out tomorrow about NiJaree Canady and some other players that OU's in on the transfer portal as well. Probably put that out sometime tomorrow afternoon. So like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate you guys hopping in here. Glenn, OU Road Paige Parker in 2016 and Power. Yeah. And she, 100%. Talked about it a lot this offseason. So I appreciate the comments, the likes, like everything. It's the offseason, but it's still exciting. It's been a couple of weeks, a week and a half since OU won a championship, but we're already gearing up to next year. The sport has grown so much in popularity, mainly in part because of Oklahoma, that even in the offseason, we're so many days away from first pitch, and the excitement is still there like it was a few weeks ago. Awesome. All right, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I have a video out later on this week as well. Enjoy your evening. Thanks as always for tuning in. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. But this situation ain't over. It ain't over anytime soon. We'll keep you updated.